It's 4:02. We'll call the meeting of the Policy Committee to order on Wednesday, February 3rd. Roll call. Leslie Jones is here. Mike Johnson is here. Ellen Gleason is here. Lori DeVos is here. And Bill Kendall. Are there any comments from the public? Seeing none. Yeah, any comments? I don't believe we have any old business. Move on to press recommendations in our little... You want to refresh our mind about how this all works in here?
Yeah,
right?
let me,
1 second, sorry.
first thing, there's, press comes out a couple times a year and gives you recommendations to update your policy manual. This time, and we subscribe to them, so it's a statewide organization that does this for us. They've recommended 25 policy updates. Of the 25 policy updates, 4 are footnotes, so those we don't have to discuss. It's just footnotes does not change the policy at all. 1 is a relocation of policy, so it goes from one section to another, but it's virtually the same policy. And 20 of them are based off of legislation. So the state has done whatever they did. We're mandated by law to update our policy and follow the policy that's set in law. So there's really no controversial issues or anything that we have to decide upon. So you want me to go through these all with you quickly and
Yeah.
or slowly?
And this is the backup is in here.
Yeah. What you'll see in here is the first section is the actual press summaries. Okay. Next to that is each of our policies that they're discussing. So the first page is our current policy. The second page is, the second part is what press is recommending. And if you look at what press is recommending, there's some highlights or underlines that is the actual change in the policy. So our policy is in line with press, so all we're doing is making adjustments to that.
In the upper right-hand corner of these pages, you'll see the section number that matches the spreadsheet. You might want to take the spreadsheet out of your binder, because that's the order that he'll go in. And then, like I said, in the upper right corner is the number that coincides with the spreadsheet.
So 2100 is simply footnotes, so we don't have to deal with that one at all.
Okay.
Okay. 2150 has to deal with board committees. So if you look at 2150 on the left, it says Bremen High School. This is what we currently have. Now you can keep going, Mark. Just go
Skip that whole section.
Go
Where
past
it
the
looks-
next orange page,
where it looks like,
and then look at the upper right-hand number.
Thank
there
you.
And
you
you
go.
want 2150.
2150.
Okay.
So it lists our current committees, and what the board, what they recommend is to have a parent-teacher advisory committee, behavior interventions committee, and then those committees report to the board. What we do is we have a student services committee, okay? And typically what that committee does is, how we do it, is those students in leadership meetings, I talk to the students about policy recommendations based on discipline. So if the kids come up with some things that they say is unfair, in the past it's been earrings for males, use of phones, backpacks, those types of things. We listen to the students, we talk to our deans bring it to the faculty, and it goes through that process, then it comes back and make a recommendation.
Okay.
This year, there's really nothing surfacing with regard to changing any language for disciplinary. What is coming is Senate Bill 100, and Senate Bill 100 is how we respond when kids do something wrong. So it deals more with suspensions and expulsions and those types of things. But it doesn't it doesn't change the violations. It changes how we operate with the violations. That make sense?
Is that the one where you can't expel them for?
Right, you're gonna have to go through some stuff. So that by law, we're gonna have to do and adjust, but it really doesn't have to go through a committee.
So it's suspensions.
Expulsions,
Suspensions and
suspensions,
expulsions.
relocations. So we're doing a meeting February 10th with our attorneys to get recommendations from them. So this is kind of off topic, but you're gonna have to deal with it eventually. When we place a student in RISE, you've given us permission to just do that. And what we do with a lot of our students who used to be expelled, we put them in an alternative setting. This new law, we have to report that and the board has to make that decision. So that'll be starting next year.
What kind of cost is that for the district?
The RISE,
Right.
I think it's between, I'm getting my numbers, it's under 15,000.
Under 15,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
somewhere around there. And we've reduced that a lot over the course of the year. We used to use Tech and Trade out of Country Club Hills,
Okay.
which was in, I would say, double the price. So we
Wow.
pulled everything back locally. The other thing that we're in the very early stages of talking about is can we run our own internal? Because we have the Bridges program at Oak Forest, which is linked to Braun, so that's a special ed program. So we run that over there, and it saves us $26,000 a student.
Wow.
If we can hook that up with a regular ed program,
Mhm.
knowing that we're going to have to use it, maybe we can self-sustain, give our kids a better program, and save money. So
Would other districts be allowed to bring theirs in and they can pay into it?
you have to do a joint. It's possible, but there's a lot of insurance, and it depends on how big our program would be. We'd have to put it in an alternative location. We couldn't do it on our campus because we don't have space.
Okay.
So right now, most of the districts are not doing that. It's been done in the past.
Right.
I don't know if transportation gets in the way, insurance gets in the way, all those
Okay.
details.
So Bridges to Braun saves us 2,600 or 26,000?
26,000.
Ooh, wow.
So we have 10 students right in there now that in the old system we would put out, it would cost us $260,000. Right now we have 2 staff members in there at about $100,000. So we're saving $160 on that internal program. So you figure for every student you put in, you need to put 4 students in RISE in order to break even. So we have to look at the numbers. If we
Right.
if we can combine the special ed, regular ed program, you know, you're still going to have to support it with social work and some other things. So I'm getting way ahead of myself. This is down the
Okay,
road.
I don't know.
It's down the road, but it's an opportunity.
Okay.
So are we changing, going back to this, are we changing the name of the
No,
Student
we're leaving
Services
everything
Committee?
the same.
Because we're just leaving it the same, okay.
Are we adding a parent group? Because that's what it says.
I think that's
It's,
in the
it's,
terms
it's
already in
covered
there.
by the Student Services Committee.
Here's what happens in our student services. In our building,
Okay.
the deans will have a meeting and invite parents to it. So each building has a parent meeting to talk about those things, and then it comes to another meeting. So it just works smoother that way with a 4-school district to have building parent meetings and district, bringing it to district. Okay, so it's all encompassed in there.
So, I mean, so we don't need to change the name?
No,
The Parent
Each-
Teacher Advisory Committee, because it has the same function?
right, right,
So
exactly.
as long as it has the same function,
As
but not
long as it
bigger.
has the same function and we report to you guys, we're meeting the call of the policy. The other thing that the policy requires us to do is to present our student services data to you, and we usually do that at the end of the year when you get that suspension report, the expulsion report. We wrap that up in that school climate report.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I'm supposed to be the person and chairperson of that?
yeah, yeah. And typically, if we have change in policy, we would have that meeting. If we don't have change in policy, unless you want to have that and go over the data with Dan, we can do that too. It doesn't matter. Either way.
So we do that anyway, but we don't do it as a committee.
Correct. I give the data to the entire board.
It's
Right.
not
As
a board
opposed to-
committee, it's a
as-
parent committee.
As opposed to 3 people. Am I making sense? We're kind of
Yeah.
talking about 2 or 3 different things all at once.
No, that's why I was just trying to make sure.
Yeah, the parent committee is done at a building level. They make a report to Dan. Dan then summarizes that report, and right now, there's nothing in there that's burning for us to change anything. So our discipline policy is going to be the exact same next year as it is this year.
Okay.
Okay? So if there were changes, they would go through that process.
Okay.
Okay? We're good?
Takes the board meetings, nothing's changed except
Yeah, they added the words "in addition" on page 1 of 5. Oh, here's what it is. In closed session, we can talk about specific school safety and security procedures. So they've added that specific language in there.
Okay.
So you couldn't do that. That wouldn't be beneficial to the safety of our students if we did that in open session. Typically, we haven't done that, but if we wanted to, we're now able to.
Safety issues.
okay.
So we talking about specific safety issues
Well,
in closed session.
it's more of our plan.
Okay.
So if you had questions about how our lockdown plan or specific communications that we make with the police department and the nitty-gritty detail things, that wouldn't be appropriate in open session because some bad guy could
Be
use
listening.
that to his advantage.
Mhm. Especially since it's on the web.
So we go through a full safety protocol every year that our associate principals run. They're in charge of it, and it's the same in all 4 buildings, and we just leave it at that.
So they have a police program where the police come there and they kind of do a rundown of what would happen in each scenario.
Yeah, there's mandated drills that we have to do, and one of the drills is with the police department. Bremen did theirs without students. A couple years ago, Hillcrest did it with students, but every year they have to walk the building, to debrief with the teachers about the process and all of those things.
So did they find out which procedure was better, with or without the student?
You don't want to do it with the students all the time, so they did a small one after school, so they only did a wing, and they did it with student volunteers, and they did it with the makeup, and they actually put bullet holes in them, and they had pulled them out, and it was really a big event. But that's
So Birmingham.
that's a lot of time and a lot of money, and so it's not something you want to do all the time. Mayor Welsh, he really organized that whole thing on his end. So, but every year they come in and
I've seen something similar to that.
Moving on, safety.
safety. Here's the state of Illinois at its finest. They mandated, I want to say in July, they passed a bill somewhere maybe in the spring that all schools needed a certain amount of carbon monoxide
That's
detectors.
because of Chicago schools where they had the shutdown.
Right. So they passed that bill quickly.
Okay.
People started to research the amount of money it would cost to put those things in,
Right.
and it was significantly expensive. So we have some in certain areas, but we don't have as many as the law would require you to have. We didn't want to put in ones with batteries. We wanted to do it right when we did it. So since then, it was supposed to be done by January 1st. They changed it. They're putting it on, the law is on hold,
Okay.
okay, because people, you know, these unfunded mandates, this budget. So we'll put that in our capital improvement to do it the right way. Eventually, we're waiting for the law to shake out. So they put the they put the policy in, but the policy, when they recommended it had to be there, but now it's on hold again. So we'll put it in and see what happens.
Just a quick question, what do you think it's gonna cost us to do it?
To do it right, I think it was like 40,000 in all
So
four
what kind of
schools.
system do they put in there? Is it like those
It's-
ones that you,
Well, we want to hook it up to our fire alarm.
okay.
So it hooks up, and if it goes off, the bells ring, and
Exactly.
everything is nice and tight and safe. The cheap way that everybody was going to do it was going to be
Go down
put
to
the
Get the one,
Walmart.
you
Put the
got it,
big-
screw it into
exactly,
the
so-
ceiling, nobody will be there when it goes off.
right. So if you're
you know.
not in the room, you have no idea, and
Exactly.
it's kind of just a waste
So
of
we have a
time. So
party.
you meet the
letter of the
policy,
law.
but you don't do it the right way. So.
Okay, I like that approach. 40,000 per building?
No, I think that would be total.
Oh.
Those were really rough numbers, so
Okay.
don't quote me on those.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, used and neglected child.
This is what we'll be talking about a little bit tomorrow.
Footnote change.
Basically, they just added
So we're
stuff that we're already doing.
5.9, I don't remember.
Yes.
5.9.
It's at the bottom of page 1 of 4 in the footnotes.
there.
Starts there.
Um,
Look down at the footnotes, they got that bar on the side, that's where we're kind of looking.
Yeah, and it's in, up above, it's in red.
Yeah,
Oh, you can't see it in there.
You know,
No.
the law
The underline.
specifically says now that you talk to the police department, the DCFS, which we've always done. But in the old world, you would call the police, and sometimes the police would say, "We'll take care of DCFS," or DCFS will say, "I don't call the police. It's not a big deal."
Okay.
Okay, but now we've always called everybody. You with me? 590. Yeah, 590.
That's what I'm,
5.90,
I see 5.1.
5.90 at the top on the right.
you went too far.
Yeah, you went
You're
too far.
beyond it.
Go back up.
Oh,
Go back a section.
okay.
The other piece in these changes, and you'll see it a couple of times, teachers used to have certificates. A couple years ago, they changed it to license, but they didn't clean up all the language in here, so anytime you see certificate, it's going to flip to license just to be up to date. So those are the two pieces there.
Now we're in 5.1.
5100, you'll see certificated and licensed again. That's just really wording.
That's all they're doing.
And suicide awareness and prevention, yeah, we saw it.
It's great.
That was,
I had a lot of people ask me about that after that, so they really want us.
yeah, all 4 of our schools are doing that and implementing, so that is, what you saw was our program to meet this policy. Now it's law for everybody else, so we're a little bit ahead of everybody. Okay. 6150, basically what this does, it deletes all the No Child Left Behind language and put in some very vague language because they really don't know what they're doing yet.
I have a new name for it.
Yeah, we started 2 years ago with the multiple measures presentations. That's what the state is adopting now. So basically all that indicators of success stuff that you saw, the state is going to a similar model. So we're right on with that. And this, I would predict this changes again after the presidency, and
Right.
the Department of Education will change and do whatever, so this one won't be here long. Okay, so that's school accountability. School wellness. This is a little bit to do with the food, making sure that all of our stuff is nutritious that we're offering. Sodexo, our provider, is going to come out and do a presentation at the March board meeting. So they interviewed, what was it, 60 or 80 students? So they're going to give you the feedback from what our students said about.
If it's healthy, they don't like it. I can
Yeah,
already give the presentation.
pretty much.
So,
Pretty much.
how were the students chosen for the Sodexo model that's gonna be presented in March?
They just asked the building for 20 students a building.
20 student program.
Yeah. What we're gonna do next year, I already had a meeting with them. Next year, we're gonna do the free and reduced lunch students only and do individual interviews, because that's where it really, they have to eat the healthy, and they get frustrated by the healthy stuff. So we're gonna try to brainstorm that. From that meeting, we're gonna try to implement a free and reduced to-go lunch. So the kids can have just the cold stuff instead of the typical hot meal that you get 3 scoops or whatever that they really don't like. So there'll be some changes. It'll be good.
Good idea. School wellness.
Good on that one.
Competitive food? What's competitive food?
Competitive eating, though.
Yeah.
Liver and onions.
Competitive food.
Oh, yeah.
That means it has no flavor, no seasoning. I mean,
Liver and onions.
Language referencing the sale of competitive foods under nutrition guidelines.
what is?
I'm reading that off of here,
Yeah.
off of the attorney recommendation. Oh, it's health hungry, kid free. It's what you're talking about.
Oh, you know what? So we have the school store,
Okay.
okay, in our building. This is a good example for us, where Sodexo is really good with our students. We have students that run that store. They sell some food items, which probably by contract isn't by the letter, but Sodexo is really good with us. But anything you sell out of there has to be aligned with your standards. So you can't get away from the nutritional standards. You can't sell good cookies and all that stuff out of there to avoid the healthy lunch program. So that's what it means by being competitive.
Okay.
So it can't be, just say you get some Misfields and then you get some get Sodexo in there?
Well, anything that Sodexo sells follows the national guidelines. That's going to be healthy food, and it has some parameters about fat and sodium and things like that.
I don't think Mrs. Fields would apply.
Yeah, you can't.
I'm just.
Yeah, you-
What I'd buy, but it doesn't
Yeah,
apply.
you can't go around the healthy stuff by doing fundraisers and having your cheerleading team sell the really good stuff, or
Okay, and it can't go out the bookstore.
you can't bypass the healthy product.
Okay.
I don't know how we're doing it. Maybe a little shaky. 660, one of the legislations said that we have to teach American government now in a civics class. So, and here's going to be, and I don't know the details, Corey and Colin Milton have worked on a transition to this program, so we're going to be a couple years earlier, starting next year. And don't ask me any questions because I don't know the details, but I walked in on that meeting once and they said they had everything under control, so. It'll go through teaching and learning next year, but they're well aware of that piece. The other piece is number 11. Number 11 is you have to teach consumer economics, and that's basically our personal finance class that we put in this year. So in the old system, you had to teach econ, and econ's more global. It's the national economy, the
Theory.
theory. but it doesn't teach students how to manage their own personal finance. So we implemented that this year for freshmen, and after we did that, the state said that that's a good idea. Everybody has to do it. So again, we're a year ahead of everybody. Kids seem to like the class. I go in that class all the time. It says, anybody a millionaire yet?
So what is it called now? What do we call it?
We call it personal finance.
Oh, that's a good thing to have.
So it's checkbooks, investing, how to pay for college, what the impact of your mortgage is going to be, what's the difference between renting and buying a house, and
I want to sit in.
I was gonna say, I bet a lot of adults would sign up for that class.
6160, for some reason they took out the language out of English language learners, so now it's just English learners.
All right, that's a biggie.
Part of the state law.
It's important.
Don't know why, but I'm in favor of it. I'm good. 6270 is a footnote, so we don't have to worry about that one.
80 is a
Next three
footnote.
are 6280 and 6310
10
footnotes.
footnotes. So now we're back to 315,
310,
breezing right along.
Yeah, 315 is a relocation.
Oh, material moved from 6320. Is that it? Yeah.
Mhm.
And it deals with 7th and 8th graders taking high school classes. Okay? Right now, there's some situations where students take high school classes in 8th grade. But they need that to graduate from 8th grade. What we do is we bump them a subject when they get to high school. Okay? Some places allow kids to get credit on both ends. So if you take algebra is typically a high school class. If you take that in 8th grade, you can get 8th grade credit for your graduation and still get high school credit here.
Wow, that's
Dual credit courses.
No, dual credit would be
Totally different.
similar, but high school, college.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so this is 8th grade,
So it's
high school. So we really don't allow that. We do and we don't. So if a kid takes algebra in 8th grade, that person's going to take geometry in high school. Our requirements still require them to take 3 years of math. So we don't want to waive that.
right.
So, I mean, if we allowed this policy to exist the way it is, a student, and it really doesn't matter because most of these are students that love math, but
gonna say.
they would only take 2 years of math
Instead of the 3 years.
instead of the
that's
3,
required.
which we really want. So we're going to put it in there. There's some flexibility. I know Corey has worked with a couple of students out of Southwood who are way advanced. That we gave them our curriculum. We gave them our online math programs and everything. But they're still going to take 3 when they get here. They'll just be a higher 3.
Yes, yeah.
You know, but we'll have it in there. You never know if a situation arises. We're pretty flexible with our grade schools. Six 340. Don't get me started. This is the state testing with the park. It says nothing about SAT, so we're going to approve this to update it to where it was last year,
So
and
we
we'll
have
probably
another
have
meeting
to.
and then we'll change
We'll
it.
probably have to do it again next year. Or it might change 2 or 3 times. Basically,
They're not giving the park at all this year.
Yes.
They are giving,
They are.
giving the park.
but they don't know what they're giving next year.
They're giving the park.
Is SAT.
The park hasn't changed. Okay, the park really has nothing to do with a student's opportunity to go to college. Colleges don't acknowledge park,
Okay.
they don't recognize park. The state is endorsing the SAT. Okay? The SAT is aligned with park, which in the long run is going to be good for us because we'll be prepping for tests in Park and SAT, and it'll make sense to the students. ACT is more of a factual recall. SAT evaluates your thought process of how you got to the answer. So ACT, think about is, did you get the answer right? SAT is, what was your process to get to the answer? So if you got 4 steps into it right, but the 5th step was wrong, you still get some credit for the process. Park is a lot like that. They're very, very different tests. So this year we're going to give the ACT again because the students who are taking that test are prepared for the ACT. And it's in their best interest to do that. And I put that in the mid-month memo. So we have Park. I think we'll be adding SAT stuff in the near future. Okay? Makes sense?
750 is a footnote, basically.
It's for grade schools.
Yeah, there's a piece in 750 that doesn't apply to us, which is elementary school, so we don't have to worry about that one.
So this is elementary only.
Oh, right. Everything, we have the other stuff, but the change only affected elementary. It was not for us. 7100. On page 3 of 4 deals with religious exemptions. So some people can come to school without the vaccinations if they say it's part of their religion, and if they prove that, we have to accept it.
How do you prove that?
Somebody signs up, they sign up.
The parent sign.
Right.
So do you have to show like in your religious bylaws that that's what you believe or
No.
anything? You don't have to go there.
No,
You just have to sign off.
for us, we're obligated to keep all students in school. So that's the premise that we deal with. So if somebody signs something, we're going to accept it because they waived their right. We're not going to get into their religion and judging their. That's not for us.
That's how
But we
143.
also have to know who those students are, and if somebody else has an outbreak that is protected, we'll let that parent know that we've had this situation in our school, you might want to keep your student out. Okay, so we still want to protect everyone.
I'll do a number on that, but it doesn't matter.
Are we having a lot of those?
Less than a dozen in the school.
143 just had an outbreak of whooping cough. And
Right. And
I think that might have been the source. My question was, I've been to their registration, which is 143. Yeah. Colmar.
I was just.
Yeah. No, you're
I
right.
did.
It's Colmar.
right.
And, yeah, I've been to their registrations, and I know, they do what we do. You gotta show that you had them vaccinated and all that. I'm like, how does this happen? Religious exemption. Okay,
So they
everybody's on.
endanger everybody.
Yeah. There's nothing you can do. It's their rights.
Yeah, but you know what? That doesn't hold well with everybody else's constitutional rights.
Yep. I hear
There's
you.
a whole lot of those constitutional
Whole lot of those,
laws, you know,
yeah.
it's the same thing with the transgender. There's a,
AIDS and
You know, all-
everything else.
it's, we're leaning more towards the individual than the
Than the
masses
whole.
right
Mhm.
now.
The majority.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it may swing again, you know, based on courts or whatever. 7130 is during non-instructional time, if somebody wants to pray, you give them a spot, you don't get involved, and you don't deny them their opportunity to pray. A lot of that comes up with our Arabian students during Ramadan. They're supposed to pray during a certain time. And it's really not a big deal for us. It's very respectful and silent, and we're already doing it. You know, we would never deny that but we don't want it to interfere with your education either, you know. We want you in class, and we'll provide those opportunities, so we're ahead in that one. Search and seizure, I gotta tell you, this one kind of got me confused. We're gonna have to study it a little bit more. It's law now. It deals with social media. So if, Mark, you were a student and you had a phone, I couldn't inspect your phone looking for inappropriate stuff.
Okay.
But if I have knowledge that there might be inappropriate stuff in your phone, then I can engage you in you giving me the phone, and if you refuse to give me the phone, then it becomes insubordination, and it goes into a whole another piece. But we don't just have this blatant opportunity to just look at, nor would we want to.
So it's kind of like the police having a right to search. They got to have reasonable cause, that kind of a deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
We just have to be reasonable, and it's really unreasonable to look at them all the time.
What about on our computers? But it's our
computers
sites,
are ours. Our iPads would follow, but I really don't want us looking at that too. But if we needed to,
We got enough problems.
we
You don't
could.
go 100 flying.
Right.
Yes. So this one we're gonna have to study a little bit more. We'll talk to our attorneys and get best practice on what's reasonable, what's right on that. 7290 is really an expansion of suicide, depression awareness, and prevention. So it lists the steps that you should be providing, and I think you saw some of that stuff in our 2 months ago. So we're in good shape with that one.
So do the teachers have a workshop with this as well? So they can kind of properly identify or it's, like they stated, it's kind of hard because, the usual symptoms.
Well, the teachers of the class, the teachers that do the screening go through that training. Basically, we tell our other teachers, if you're seeing symptoms, whatever those symptoms are, you refer the student to our student services department. They're not going to be diagnosing depression, or they're teachers, so we keep them in the teacher world. But you see a kid acting a little awkward or a little out of it, you take them to the appropriate places, much like what we'll be dealing with tomorrow. That's how it came up. A teacher was aware that a student was in bad shape and took the appropriate course of action.
Are we in trouble tomorrow?
Yeah, we'll talk after. Co-curricular athletics. They changed some of the wording, and they're putting in writing what we already do. So you have to have a physical. The physical's got to be signed off, and we use the IHSA document. So number 5 is we give a code of conduct and rules to our students, and they agree to those. So those are all procedures that we have in place. Somewhere somebody didn't do that, and that's why we got a policy. But
so we have registration. We can cover this in registration.
Sometimes, if you're a winter sport athlete or spring, you'll get another opportunity. You don't have to declare in the fall, but if you're a fall, it's taken before you get started with your sport. You're included.
Okay.
7305 is the concussion protocol, which has gotten much more specific. Athletico does that for us, and we've checked and we're compliant with all of the updated concussion reports. Student records. Student records, all that's added is a piece. About 3 or 4 years ago, the state has followed students throughout their whole educational career. So if you're a kindergartner and you go to 5 schools, the state has all 5 of your records at a state level. In the past, that never really would happen. You know, your records stayed with your school and we handed them over to you. But now with technology, it gets put out in space. Sometimes there's an advantage for a parent not to share all the information. So if a kid gets in trouble and withdraws and goes to another school district, it might not be in the best interest of the student. For the new school, they're trying to get a fresh start for their student.
Right.
Or the school that they're in currently has a special ed label, and they didn't agree with the special ed label. They changed schools. They don't want that label. This policy says we have to transfer those records so parents can't play fast and loose outside of the organization, because now the state controls the data. So, 340. That was 7340.
830.
830. Under 830, visitors to school property and people that work on campus, they've added a section that you can't be intoxicated on campus, and they don't care when you drank. So if a teacher goes out overnight, drinks and stops drinking at about 3 in the morning and wakes up and goes to school, gets there at 7 in the morning and still intoxicated, you're still in trouble. The old policy was you can't be drinking on campus.
Right.
You can't be around other students if you're intoxicated. So that's what this is, the addition. Okay? That's it.
So are these gonna be presented as first and final?
I'll go through them and see if there's
I think we
anything that
can-
needs to be.
Because they're all,
If it's all law, there's no real, we
no
probably
discussion,
did
no
go
debate.
Let's do it.
for first and final. Do you guys agree? There's nothing,
This is it. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't do anything about it.
right?
Right?
Right.
So just,
Yeah.
There's no vote on it, there's no nothing. It's-
Okay.
You'd be breaking the law if you didn't
You
yeah.
don't do it.
follow the law.
Follow
Okay.
along, right?
Yeah.
So committee
And
recommendation.
federal trumps
State trumps local.
local.
Right. So
Okay,
they're not
then
given a
we
chance
are
to have an opinion.
adjourned at 4:45.